Good morning. Today we're going to look in Matthew's account of Jesus' prayers in Gethsemane. Is it one prayer? Is it several prayers? I think it's the continual prayer. So what we find now is the Last Supper is over. The disciples are following Jesus. They're going up to the Mount of Olives. And in verse 36 in chapter 26, it says, "And Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, a garden on the Mount of Olives there. And he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.'" So he's going there, and he is human and divine. He's going there with all 11 of the remaining disciples. He says, "Y'all want to sit here, and I'm going to move away a little bit." But in the next verse, he says, "I want Peter, James, and John. I want y'all to go with me." They have gone with him on special task before. They've seen things directly that he has done. So the four of them now moved out. But Jesus said, "I'm grieved." That's a hurting, that's a burden, that's a pain that is going on in his heart and his emotions. But he also says, "I'm distressed." And that's a sense of our mind being engulfed in worry. And so he has this combination of things that are welling up in his emotions and in his mind that he wants to pray to God about. This burden is something that requires him to move closer and closer to God. He wanted human companionship, but he needed divine companionship. So now he tells them to sit and watch, and says, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and watch with me." Now you stay here, I'm over here, but we're both watching. So they're spreading out a little bit, but he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed. Now Luke's account, the Greek in Luke's account, Luke is a very precise writer, and in the sense of what he wrote was Jesus kept on falling down and praying. And so he's striving to stand on his own. But every time he falls, he prays. The flesh is yielding to the Spirit, and he knows that he needs the Father. So he falls flat of his face. "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but you will." So he goes back to the disciples, and this is one of the two times, and they're just not getting it. He's coming back to humanity, but that's not what he needs in the moment. He needs God, and he needs God alone. We absolutely need human companionship. We certainly need the companionship of our mighty men of valor. But Jesus also knew that he needed the divine guidance that can only come through prayer, that can only come from our Heavenly Father. So he goes away in verse 42 a second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass away unless I drink it, your will be done." Notice Jesus is receiving information. We don't hear God speak here. But his mind is conforming to the mind of God. His mind is conforming to the will of God. His flesh is submitting to the Spirit. And this comes through the power of our prayer life because of the power of God to answer prayer. So in verse 44, he says he left them again. He went away and he prayed a third time, saying the same thing once more. So he's moved closer and closer in his thinking. Okay, if it can't pass. Remember, he first asked, can it pass? All right, so if it can't pass, your will be done and not mine. So Jesus comes, then he comes back to them, and it's a completely different mindset. He's not grieved. He's not distressed. He is resolute. He is determined. His face, according to Luke, was set toward Jerusalem before he went in the triumphal entry. Now his face is set toward the cross. He is determined, and he is going to go through it. He came to his disciples. He says, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's get going. Behold, the one who betrays me at hand." In the fundamental sense, Jesus had a petition. He had a care, a concern, and he asked God. He asked God for something that he desired, but he always asked it in a way that said, "I want your will to be done. This is what I want. But Father, your will." He began to crystallize his understanding and receiving his answer. But then he did something truly remarkable. He listened to God. He accepted his answer. and he moved forward, and he carried out the will of God. Our Heavenly Father, we know that you have given us precious people in our lives. We need to love and love them as you love us. But we need to show the world our faith as well as our love, and understand that there is something beyond us, a higher power that is in control. We know that it's you, but let others see that guidance in us. Sometimes those special people in our lives are there with us, praying and helping us and watching us. But Father, when we are truly grieved and distressed, you and you alone are our only source for help. Help us always to keep on praying, but keep on listening. Father, guide my steps today. Help me submit my will to you. In your Son's precious and holy name I pray. Amen.